Moving on to the next section, I'm going to start quilting these feathers. Now, these are a fused down feathers, so in Sue's design, you'll find these little petals, or I guess, yeah, petals is what I'd call them. She's already done the blanket stitching around them. Now it's time to quilt them. My intention is to go around the edges of each of the feathers, then come back and fill in on the background. So that's how this is going to happen. So I've got a yellow thread in right now. I've got the Superior Rainbow, so it's a slightly variegated color. And I'm going to run right along the edge of those petals. Now, my intention, and I always say that because, best laid plans, is to stay right next to the edge. There might be a time that I might accidentally go off a little far away or onto the petals themselves. And if I do, yeah, that's just called quilting. It's never going to be perfect. It's just going to be a look. When I'm going around, and I'm not going real fast. Oops, I just ran up on the side of that petal. Oh, well. Coming down between each one so that each one is secured down. And I think what I like here is that the petals themselves will stay almost puffed up a little bit. Now keep in mind these little guys are maybe 1.25 inches at their widest part. And I always talk about doing equal density of quilting. Well, my quilting out here will be, I don't know, about 1/4 inch apart. So these are only going to be 1 inch bigger than those are. So that is going to be enough quilting. When it gets washed, it's not going to puff up too much. I like the look that this creates by making them puff up a little bit. If I think they puff up too much after I get the rest of this quilted, I'll actually maybe come in here and kind of just do a vein in between each one. I don't think I'm going to, but you never know. So at this point, I'm going to come up the middle of that petal because I've already quilted the edges here, quilted with some meandering here. Now I'm going to do the quilting here and get myself to the other end of that petal. And I'll show you how I'm going to go from one petal to the next. I've done a few of them, so I've kind of come up with a plan. I always like to have my quilting, when I'm doing free motion quilting, to have my stitches, the whole design, I guess, to be as continuous as possible. So I don't want to start and stop at each feather. So I've kind of come up with a continuous plan. Going in between the feathers, I'm just kind of moving, kind of going in a little bit curly and then coming back out again because I'd already gone in between and around each feather. I don't have to try to get the meandering or stippling inside that area. So watch how I do this. Coming up here, and I'm just going to squiggle on in and squiggle on out, and that'll fill that area. Now here at the bottom of this feather, keep in mind the one behind me is not quilted and this one is. So I'm going to quilt between both of these, getting close to that light blue feather, but not right next to it because there will be that outline stitching next to it, but I'm going to get there in a minute. So I'm going to work my way into underneath this feather and then kind of go straight across right there on the ledge of that yellow. Now I'll work my way into that area of the next petal set so that I don't have to start and stop. So kind of squiggle and then go straight. Now I'm going to go around each petal again and notice how I've quilted this area here, but not here. That's why when I go around the petals, I'll come up on the second petal and then fill in this area. So nice and slowly, I guess. You could go a little here. Let me slow it down just a little bit. You could go a little slower like that. I don't think you'd have any trouble staying off the edges if you're going this slow. The problem for me going slow is sometimes I'm a little bit jerky. I don't get my lines quite as smooth. And since I really want my lines to stay smooth, I will oftentimes go a little bit faster. So maybe around like this. And you remember that the speed of the machine and the speed of your hands is what makes your stitch length consistent. So your speed may be quite different than my speed, and that's okay. Doesn't make it right or wrong. Whatever it takes for you to be able to get a speed that you can be smooth with when you're going around curves, and that isn't too long. You like to have some smaller stitches. So now I can come up through the middle of that feather and then go back into my meandering stippling. I'm calling it that because it's really not stippling. Stippling is even smaller than this, but yet it's not meandering either because I think of meandering as being a little bit bigger. So I'll call it meandering stippling, and you can call it whatever you like. So there you go. That's how I'm going to quilt these feathers, going all the way around this border, and there's another set of them on the inside. So I will do that around both sets.